In a time when there were so many first-person games, Mirror's Edge was this breath of fresh air in a crowded market. It was a standout among the competition. Really, there was no competition to Mirror's Edge. It was that original. Even today, you can look back at Mirror's Edge, and no other game series comes close to the overall package that was that game. Back in 2008, first-person games were dominated by the likes of Halo, Battlefield, and Call of Duty, and a vast majority of first-person games tried to copy what those games did. They all shared the same things: a focus on gritty action, dull color palettes consisting of browns and grays, and the goal of shooting and killing as much as possible. But then there was Mirror's Edge, and it was so original and unique that probably a lot of people weren't interested. After all, it didn't have a huge focus on gunplay. Instead, the focus was on parkour, which at the time was very popular. Climbing, jumping, balancing on beams, sliding under obstacles, vaulting over objects, wall running, there was a ton Faith could do, and it did take some skill to chain these moves together. You would have to memorize the button combo and timing if you wanted Faith to get where she needed to go, but it was always so satisfying to accomplish. Mirror's Edge was in no way going to turn the genre upside down, but I think it was surprising to see the game come from not just EA, but also the developers of Battlefield, DICE. When you look at the story of Mirror's Edge, it's one that hits close to home, especially as the world keeps changing. Not to get political, but similar to the ongoing issues in our world, in Mirror's Edge, those who resist and stand up to the changes get punished. But that's where Faith and the runners come in. With the city being monitored and controlled, runners are the only way for the truth to be transported without outer interference. And of course, those who have power in the city want to end the runners. But Faith's story isn't necessarily about her time with the runners. What starts out as an ordinary day back on the job takes a turn for the worse when Faith's sister is in trouble, and Faith takes it upon herself to solve the mystery. And it's here where my one complaint of the story is. We don't really get a feeling of how important runners are in the city. The iconic yellow bag seen in its promotion doesn't serve much purpose. It's only seen at the start of the story, and then it's just a collectible. This was kind of rectified and callous with side jobs, but that's my only issue. I want to know more about the runners, how they operate, their clients, more than what the game shows us. What I find most interesting about Mirror's Edge is the sisterly bond between Faith and Kate, and this was way before Disney would popularize it with Frozen. You have Faith, she's a runner. She's against the law, against the city, and all of the changes it's had. But then there's Kate. She's a police officer, she's for the law. There's distance in their relationship, they're on opposite sides, but regardless, Faith is still there for her sister. Now, to tell majority of the story, the game uses these cartoon cutscenes. I can remember not being a fan of these when I first saw them, wondering why they couldn't at least have more in-game cutscenes because they do have plenty of them. The art style at least matches the game's style, clean and simplistic but bold. They've always stood out, but over the years I've grown to accept them and enjoy them for what they are. Plus, we don't really get to see Faith that often because it is in first person. And the story takes Faith all over the city, primarily on rooftops, but underground to the sewers and the subway system, in and out of office buildings. She explores a yet-to-be-open mall, various construction sites, and it's all very familiar. This city is a place many of us will recognize. Even with its unsettling beauty, everything is clean but not perfect. It's a surreal kind of atmosphere. Everything is at peace. And clearly what makes this city unique are the color choices. The environment is primarily white, and then each area you go to are cleverly designed with a pop of color. For instance, the mall Faith navigates through is primarily orange, and the sewers are green. And with a ton of games doing photorealistic environments today that can often feel bland and unlived in, you have this game from 2008 that feels realistic and lived in, yet striking in its design. And even all these years later, because of those design choices, each level is memorable. The balance of platforming, the adrenaline you feel from fighting and chase sequences, to the calmness after you reach safety. Each level is a rush, giving you extreme highs and then cooling you off. There's always a linear path to follow in Mirror's Edge. Environments may open up at times, and there will be a moment of trying to figure out where to go. It's always trial and error. Figuring out where you can climb, what path to take, how soon to jump, and keeping up your momentum. Faith has this really cool ability called Runner's Vision, which will turn objects red, signaling to the player that this can be climbed on and that this is basically the way to go. It's like holding your hand, but never feels like control is taken away. Though if you truly want a challenge, this can be turned off. Often Faith will use elevators as a means of escape from her enemies. They're like these safe havens, protecting Faith when she needs it most. But more importantly, they include a screen inside that keeps an update on the daily happenings of the city. Often, many of the details allude to later chapters, but you also get a sense of an overall fear of runners, and how it's claimed that children may not be safe if they're interested in running in general. These elevator updates are definitely a must-read if you've ever looked past them. Then you have Faith herself, who I find to be an incredible character. And if you read the prequel comic book, you gain a greater understanding of who she is and her past family issues. But her design is simplistic yet recognizable, even iconic. She has a black top, white pants, and then that pop of color with her red shoes and single red glove. Then her tattoos, especially her single eye tattoo. It's an effortless look, but it made an impact and it's memorable. Mirror's Edge has a huge focus on parkour and climbing, but there are sections where Faith needs to engage in some kind of combat. There are two ways to go about this, the first being hand-to-hand combat. While her enemies typically have an advantage with guns, Faith can do a series of punches and kicks and add some parkour elements to it. Combat isn't perfect, but it does get the job done. The other way is by shooting, but Faith does not carry a gun. She can obtain one by defeating enemies in combat or by disarming them, but the game discourages gun use. You're never penalized, but the game makes it ever apparent that this isn't that kind of game. Guns are a quick way to dispatch enemies, but not always the best way of handling a situation. Guns only slow Faith down, they have a weight to them. Unless it's a handgun, she can't carry a gun and do parkour moves. Once a gun is out of ammo, that's it, it's discarded. Unless she picks up another gun, it's back to physical combat. Shooting is extremely basic but is quick and gets the job done. Faith shoots from the hip. She doesn't aim the gun for precision unless she obtains a sniper rifle, which is a rare occasion. It speaks a lot about the character. She knows how to shoot these weapons, but it's more like a self-defense kind of thing. I feel like Mirror's Edge is what was best about games in the 2000s. Developers and publishers taking huge risks, experimenting with different art styles and gameplay. Even looking at EA back then compared to now, there's a huge difference. They have always been hungry for profits, but you had this game, Dead Space, Skate, so many different games that were beloved by many, and you could feel the passion the developers had in making them. Completely different from EA today, where they really scale back on the output of their games, and the innovation just feels lacking. Mirror's Edge was truly a unique game for its time, and even today I still find it to be a standout. Sure, the first-person market has changed and evolved, but nothing comes close to what Mirror's Edge was. Even the reboot of Mirror's Edge Callus, which while decent, doesn't really come close to the feeling and atmosphere the original Mirror's Edge had. Mirror's Edge is one of those games I continue to return to every so often. It always feels so fresh to play. The details, traveling all over the city, the adrenaline rush you get from running and doing the parkour moves, and then its incredible soundtrack. There aren't too many video game soundtracks I will listen to track after track. Everything about Mirror's Edge blends together into this timeless package that still feels worthy of a playthrough today. Sadly, the planned Mirror's Edge trilogy would never happen, and despite EA seemingly building up Mirror's Edge into a franchise with a prequel comic and a mobile game, the future of the series kinda just fizzled out until Mirror's Edge Callus many years later. But for Mirror's Edge Callus, that is a video for another time. Let me know in the comments below, what are your favorite memories about Mirror's Edge? Be sure to like and subscribe for future content. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.